Hello everyone, I am Stanley Greyheart Barker and I am joined by the indomitable Alex Nymera Hapgood. We are here to find out which teams will be qualifying for Varsity next split.
Well, and we're joined by some familiar faces, not just us two on the desk, but we have many players on the Rift who we have covered this split already. On one side, we have the Portsmouth Paladins, a story team which Stan has cast many times and will be doing once again tonight. And on the other side, we've got some fire starters, some newcomers, Fearless from the University of Leicester. Covered them in week one, and they were talking about how they were excited for the split and wanted to aim towards varsity. Well, with this match now on the line in the lower bracket, there are no lives remaining, no extra chances. It's one best of three to determine it all.
And they lost their first life so long ago, dropping out in that best of one first knockout round. They lost to ESSKT, as I like to call them, SKT, and they worked their way all the way through the lower half of the bracket, finding themselves here. They took down the University of Edinburgh 2-0. Cabbage Man Dam, they managed to take a game off them, but eventually lost 2-1. Grey Warwick Academy also fell 0-2. Now it's Fearless versus the Portsmouth Paladins. On the other side of this bracket, there is another game going on simultaneously. That will be the aforementioned ESSKT. They are going up against Heartstuck, who we saw on Wednesday's broadcast, and that the winner of that match will also find themselves a place in varsity. The two teams that managed to find their way through the main draw unbeaten were Surrey Stags and Robins Cringers. They will be in varsity in the spring.
It will be. So we do have a bit of a better picture of who we are going to be covering in that spring split. These teams tonight will want to be among that number, have that upper bracket certification, give themselves that gold standard for the new quality of teams. And as we were saying, it is just one best of three remaining. Of course, we were talking about Fearless making that lower bracket run, and they've really taken no prisoners. They've had a lot of teams to go through. I mean, we covered Grey Warwick Academy on one in that first best of one before we went on to cover the Portsmouth Paladins versus the Oxford Brooks Vipers in that crazy 3-game series. So honestly, the level of competition in this bracket, in this double elimination bracket, has been very stringent, and I can't wait to see how it caps itself off tonight.
It has been brilliant. I just want to ask our fantastic producer, Patrick Pants Campbell, remember to follow him at Prod Patrick on Twitter. Quick question. Was that just me who the lobby went absolutely crazy for and I could see all of the borders of everybody, or are we okay? We are okay. It's just
I'm also seeing
my
okay
client
right
has thrown a bit of a wobbly, but hopefully that's not going to affect things too much.
Do you want me to walk you through the bans? So we've got one coming in already. It is the Niddly away from Trilip on the side of Fearless, and we know this top side of the map from Fearless was so potent when we saw them in that first week, when we did see them in that best of one on our stream in the regular split. And honestly, I think that if Fearless are going to really run over this game, I think it will be through that top side, maybe through the mid lane too. We'll have to see that matchup.
Client has now fixed itself. Thank you very much for
Lovely.
for informing me everyone in a moment. I think the client just did a little update to tell me I had a new mission to fulfill, and it decided to throw a spanner in the works of the rest of the client with all the joyous spaghetti coding that is in our wonderful esteemed client from our Lord. Samira is going to be the next ban. That's a champion that we have seen Harry play before now, so it will be taken away. Also very much a point of power. We are of course playing on this pre-season patch. It's had a couple of twists and turns to it. Jin is the champion, which has been seeing so much play. Kale is the last champion that so often gets banned away. That's been left up, and the Vayne has been banned instead.
That's very important. I think Harry, when we saw them against Oxford, was such a hard carry. If you give Harry the ability to play aggressive, he will play aggressive. It's not an option at that point. He does go for the hard trades. He wants to brawl and outplay mechanically. When we saw the Paladins in their own match that we covered, then we did see that. Of course, Rat as well was playing a lot of high mobility mid laners like the Akali, like the Echo, and particularly Rat's side lane play on the Echo was something to be worried about.
We're going to see the Echo being the most highly prioritized of all the remaining champions. And while I agree it is a feared champion, he's had some good games on it, I'm surprised it has been quite so highly prioritized as this is. But that is the Teemo, which is not a Teemo. It is, of course, a Sejuani, but you knew that.
At least we found out early this time instead of talking about the intricacies of Kassadin on a champ select, which Kassadin was not actually picked in. Okay, so Sejuani locked in for Fearless, and it is the Akali. So we have that melee, high mobility AP assassin matchup in the mid lane. We saw this from Ra in the last series we covered from them. Now the question is, what are you going to lock in to that Sejuani, a lot of the time it is something which can pressure early, and something like a Lilia has not been as standard as it was before the preseason hit. It's not like Lilia does have significant advantages in a lot of clear times and then gets to build up to itemization, which is really hard to deal with. They're not going to lock that in. Of course, it was just that hover. Instead, it's going to be the Misfortune for Harry. So lane dominance.
Let's just take you back a moment to that descriptive line you just said about the Akali. Crucial word in there for me, melee assassin. And it is going to be a melee to go alongside the Sejuani, and we know just how much that can help things out.
Can do, yes. You don't have an auto attack reset on that champion, but just getting an extra stack for the Sejuani E might force out a flash, might lead to that stun coming through in situations where it otherwise wouldn't do. Often Sylas tends to be a pretty good pick for that kind of nature too, which would have fit that same role as the Akali. But of course, Akali very, very strong right now, going for the Rift Maker itemization. It works wonders for that champion against so many different matchups. Allows you to buy time in your Shroud and get up to that point where you do get extra damage and then extra true damage conversion too once that damage starts kicking in. So yeah, the Akali has been a real priority pick for a number of laners this patch.
The Lilia that had been previously hovered now is locked in for Sam Youngles. Interesting to see the Misfortune picked up, the Senna on the other side of the Rift.
Okay, so the good thing about Misfortune and Senna is that they both do something which is kind of loosely known as through damage, where if you're fighting in a team fight and you have to fight through some kind of a front line, like the Sejuani will be in this composition, and of course the Lilia that was locked in eventually, they have abilities like the Senna ultimate, the Misfortune ultimate, and the EE, which affects the team fight through that front line. The front line can't block out all of the skill shots because it pierces them. You don't have a wind wall to deal with that. So that Senna ult, if the Akali is going on to someone like the Misfortune, could end up being the extra 100+ damage that comes through to seal that kill.
And if that happens, then, that'll be great news for the Portsmouth Paladins, having locked that one in. We're seeing the Leona banned away from Zomimi. Don't want to pair that one up alongside the Leona, Solar Flare and the Misfortune all together. Bullet time definitely makes life a little bit tougher. It's going to be the Shen removed from Beach's champion pool. If you're already banned away by Portsmouth, they have one last ban. Then we get to see what is prioritized coming out of Fearless.
When we saw the Paladins on the Rift, the last time we cast them, it was Beach on tank Gs. He played Ornn, played Shen, and doesn't particularly want to go up against Erlingston at top lanes, fight a champion pool. As I was saying, I do think that Fearless can play through that top side. We did see Erlingston play stuff like the GP, playing stuff like the Fiora, Aurelia. Aurelia's actually not been banned. I'd imagine that's going to be the last of the carry champions which they might be going towards. But Camille also exists, and that is the champion too.
Exactly what I was expecting.
And that is the more meta of the picks. I was just looking at the OPGGs and saying, okay, well, the Aurelia has been one which Jones has been going towards, but of course Camille has been a champion which has been practiced so much by so many teams in this over this season, so it's not a surprise to see that locked in.
Super good place at the moment as well. We'll see exactly what Beach wants to play into this one. Of course, remember, there is still the support C, and there it is, Mimi opting into the Alistair, something that we haven't seen a huge amount of in preseason. In fact, I will go as far as to say the Misfortune Alistair is not something I have seen paired together for nearly an entire season.
I guess back in spring when Misfortune was very high priority, we might have seen it a little bit then, but that was when Alistair was really not on the radar.
Nearly an entire season.
Not really on the radar either, so even then it could be stretching further than that. One thing we have seen constantly is such a hallmark of League of Legends top lane right now. It is the Ornn going up against that Camille, so we have seen, we saw Beach really take it to a set matchup, which is often one of those sideline matchups, which does win for the set, win that matchup and go on to become a real point of pressure across the map. Camille might not be so easy to do that against, so that top lane will be a place we'll have to keep our eyes on.
One last champion to come through. Remember, of course, that Teemo is a Sejuani, so we get to find ourselves a Galio at the end of all this. That raises
support, I guess.
I was going to say, raises the question of what will be the support. However, you say most likely the Galio.
I mean, Galio support has been a thing in the past. I don't necessarily know if the items are great for that champion right now. In that role,
How do we get? And never mind. I was gonna take a print screen of the craziness that had happened to my lobby, but it went way too fast. Which is also a good thing, because it means we can get back into the game quicker.
Absolutely. So, of course, we have the pseudo bans coming through. Hopefully, they don't ban away one of the champions they actually need to pick at some point. And we are back into getting everything into role order. And
Can you imagine that all the A bans? It's like Akali, don't.
Yep. I myself have been back when I was a player. I did do that occasionally. Luckily, I wasn't a top laner, so I didn't have that responsibility put towards me. As so often in these pro teams, they are.
So yeah, it's very, very crucial to have eyes if you're going to be the top laner, I believe.
That's a problem.
So Aurelion Sol is the new final ban, and that's something that a lot of people have been moaning about lately. Is Aurelion Sol, of course, finally getting a new skin, but people feeling that Aurelion Sol completely out of the meta.
That was a Silas locks in.
I assume they. I have no idea what they were doing, to be honest. What's the print screen button? Tell me quickly. Go, go, go. No, don't Alt F4. That is a bad thing.
Yes, fair to say. Press Alt F4 to take screenshots. I've heard it. I've
heard
it here
first. I was thinking in my head, what can I? Oh, there's the print screen button. We got it.
So I was just like, tell me, what is the print screen button? Probably the one helpfully labeled print screen stand. I'm not really sure I can help you out anything more than that.
At least I didn't spill coffee on it. Okay.
Oof. Yeah, I guess when we got time. You know, you were talking about Sejuani and melee laners. You know, and there's something to be said about Sejuani. Oh. You really want Sejuani to pair up with something. There's stuff about combos there, and some things are more than the sum of their parts. And we've got the Sejuani and the Kali. Sejuani and the Camille are going to be very important in this game.
I doubt.
But I like to thinking about combos is the thing we have to do in everyday life. And I love myself keyboards, and I love myself caffeine, and I love myself coffee. Do not like the fact that I spilled coffee all over my very nice mechanical keyboard and broke it for a number of days. I had to dry it out, and I think it's working now. It's now actually ironically cleaner than it's ever been, because I did have to go make sure it was all in working order. Hopefully these team comps will also be in working order.
The new Kenko keyboards coming to a shop near you. Oh dear. No, well, we've got our composition completed. This is what they're actually going to look like. We've had the proxy picks all dealt with, so we can actually see everything in front of us, Alex. This is game 1 in a best of 3. Everything on the line for these two teams. Whoever takes this best of 3 goes into varsity for spring. Whoever doesn't will just fall into the regular open bracket. Based purely on compositions and what you've seen of these two teams, who are you backing to not only just take this game, but also this series?
Basing things off the whole series from game 1 is so difficult, but I think Beach had a really good game on the Ornn. Mentioned it a couple of times, mentioned his name a number of times through Champions League, because the game where he did get ahead on that champion, it was very, very hard for the enemy team to really start working against that. I do really like the early game potential of Fearless though, and I think that between the Sejuani and having a Kali which is so strong right now, and Ernst being such a strong individual laner too, I'm probably going to give it to Fearless with the nameplates on.
And to be honest, with nameplates on or off, I think that my feelings are very similar to yours. And my main concern is a little bit of an unknown. And it could well be that I spoke, I believe it was last week during our annual broadcast, about how we get to see these teams defining the meta, because we haven't got pro play at the moment. So maybe these teams, they're coming up with new things that work. And maybe, just maybe, the Misfortune Azta is one of those things that I myself wasn't aware of as being hyper OP. I personally don't have faith in it right now, and that's why I agree with you, especially for this game 1. I'm looking at Fearless, but Harry has made a believer of me on more than one occasion, so I am happy to be proved wrong.
And there's also a very important interaction we will need to keep track of during this game, which is how a continued damage source doesn't proc a sleep. If you get Lily ult on someone and then you put the Misfortune ult over them, they don't actually wake up. They have to sit there and just use up all of that CC duration while they're set in the bullet time, and no one wants to sit in the bullet time for that amount of time. So if you get a multi-man sleep onto anyone who really wants to be disrupting that Misfortune, that could just be multiple people removed off the board immediately, and then you have the follow-up engage after that of Echo following up with the parallel convergence, Alistair, Ornn keeping people pinned in place. So I think actually if this comes down to set piece plays where you're fighting around Herald's Dragons without significant leads for Fearless or significant vision and therefore flanking opportunities, I think that Paladins have some real ways into this game.
We're still at a point where we like to talk about the mythic items a lot, and I'm sure as we get into game, we'll start talking about which of these champions are picking up what. However, for those people who maybe haven't seen Ornn in competitive since pre-season, he's now in a position where he does not get the 2 upgraded items for himself, but he does get his mythic upgraded. No matter which mythic it is, every single mythic can be upgraded, and he also has the ability to upgrade every mythic for everyone on his team. So, and also gets extra stats every time that he does it. So it'll be interesting to see just how that one plays out, if that's something that can provide extra strength if we get into a late game. However, if Akali has her way, there will not be a late game to be seen.
That's the thing. You've got a Camille, you've got a Kali. Gali will be flying in, so Sejuani can hold someone in place to try and split up the fight too. And if you have that amount of disruption and you have gold leads on the appropriate members there, you don't really get to stand and fire as this much misfortune. You don't really get to have a high value parallel convergence because you do want a second or two to set up where you're funneling people towards to try and hit that skill shot. I think that if you can really disrupt the backline, Fearless do have ample damage to just run away with the fight after taking out the misfortune. Because I think once that 80 carries down, I think that you're just going to continually run over them with your solo laners.
As you can see, the clock is ticking down. We're going to be jumping onto the Rift in just a moment. We're going to take ourselves a very, very short break to set up for that. We will be back in mere moments with our first game of this best of 3. We are on to the Rift for the first in this best of 3 series. The winning team here will be qualifying for varsity in the spring split. We are going to be seeing the Portsmouth Paladins on the blue side. They are Beach, Sammy Youngles, Rat, Harry, and Zomimi.
And facing them today in this best of 3 for that varsity qualification berth will be Unks, Trilip, and don't be fooled, he's in the mid lane, Bot Khan, Fallen Rain, and Stripes for Fearless.
And we're going to see Unks actually just happen to be very, very careful, playing around what Sammy Youngles and Beach are doing. Going to spot out the vision that's being put down. Not a lot he could do to stop it, though.
And there is, of course, this Lilia in the game. Lilia, one of the best champions in the game, maybe the best at invading Raptors at that level 1 mark with that Q, those blooming blows, lots of AOE, applies the passive, which gets that DOT onto multiple targets. Just the how quick this Lilia can take down that champion. This is always a risk that you are going to be invaded by that champion.
Certainly is a possibility, and it'll be interesting to see if we get that clash between these two absolute top tier junglers, both of which will be desperate to be qualifying for varsity next split. They would both be exceptionally disappointed not to make the cut, but one of them will not make that cut. We talked about it a little bit during Champ Select, but I'm really enjoying the idea of having this Galio in support. I know just how much I love to see that Galio heroic entrance come down, how useful it can be in team fights, but I also almost feel like it's wasted mid and we don't get the excitement of maybe the assassin players that we'll get from both mid laners here. Having it in support means that we get all that goodness and it's in the support role.
That's true. Of course, Galio does have to play aggressive regardless of the role he's in. Doesn't really have the ability to play as reserved as something even like a Nautilus or a Leona, which are still relatively aggressive champions. Galio has to start doing stuff with his face, and we see the level 2 in mid lane. They are also going and using their melee damage as much as they can.
Just about getting the better of that trade, running the Electrocute alongside the Ignite in comparison to the footwork teleport that Akali is going for. In the top lane, we're getting some slight trades as well, and it's getting just slightly the worst of those. I'm not going to be too worried just yet.
Of course not. What the really fun thing about this Camille Ornn matchup is you can actually hook shot off with that pillar from the Q, which is kind of fun. So you think you've got a really good trade, you're going to Searing Charge, and Camille just ends up dashing out of nowhere and stunning you. It's a crazy matchup.
It is. We're going to wait for those early Alistair trades as well when we see the Headbutt Pulverize coming through. Junglers focusing on the clear so far, and you can see that already Lilia is 1.5 camps ahead of the Sejuani.
Is doing, and you know, I'm not someone who studied geography much, but I occasionally like to do myself a weather forecast, and I think we're going to have ourselves a high pressure system coming out of that top side, which will be drawing attention of both these junglers, and maybe have a bit of stormy weather coming down this bot lane.
Sejuani coming in on Bristle, already we've seen that root connecting on to the Alistair. Zamini flashing himself away. One more knock up, it's going to see him stunned up for days. It's going to be Galio that takes the first blood with the flash ignite. Beach now under pressure as Unks tries to find the kill and succeeds with a flash slap to the face.
The danger of going and showing your hand bot lane is that when you have this matchup in the top side, which is very dangerous, it gives the Camille free run at this on. Does take that kill, gets a solo kill, get these junglers now having a look towards this bottom scuttle, but I think Sammy Youngles stayed too long.
Sammy Youngles getting collapsed upon, but Rad is arriving as well. Trilope's going to find the kill onto Sammy Youngles. Rad's going to get rooted down. We're going to see yet another kill being picked up by Fearless as they go 4 kills to 1 up.
We know that Lilia has the chance to out-tempo their opposing jungler just because of that clear speed, but turns up late to that bottom lane fight, even though they had a camp advantage, did not allow them to swing the fight in bot lane. Trilop goes in for that, does die on that scuttle fight at the very least for the side of the Portsmouth Paladins, but is now sat at 1, 1, and 2, and this side of Fearless are feeling very happy about this early game.
Zamimi find a little bit of tempo to push in down on the bot lane. They find themselves with a little bit of a CS advantage, but given all the gold that's gone over to the opposing bot lane, they are not going to be in a happy place as Sammy Youngles is going to miss out on the scuttle here. And this raises a question which I myself was struggling with a lot during last season. In fact, I would argue it's the reason why I was playing probably the most poorly across the Rift in my general games, and that is when to be clearing your jungle, when to be making those early ganks. And this time, Trilite showing exactly why it is worth making the early play.
It's almost the mindset of a Jarvan 4 player, because you know that you have the ability to gank at level 2, but if you do that and you end up missing out on a certain amount of camps, you can just fall terribly far behind and you do lack a lot of those tools, much like the Sejuani does too, from behind, to really hold your own and fulfill your role later into the game if you do fall significantly far behind. Now having that early gold injection into their pockets, having some of their jungle to play around, and of course now having your Camille very far ahead on that top side too with that early solo kill, you have a lot more options, and that gamble's paid off.
Yeah, and like you say, though, I mean, for instance, that may not have paid off had Zamimi not been hit by the last embrace coming out of Fallen Rain and got rooted down to make the play happen in the first place. So you have an absolute point, but Khan getting a good amount of damage down. We see the Doran's shield early pickup from Akali has already been boosted up with that Hextech alternator on the back of Akali's first kill.
Love what Khan was doing. Knows that they have the red buff, knows that actually having the passive from Akali increases your range, so you can just keep chasing down, use the move speed from your W to chase for those passive stacks. The wave is on the correct side of the lane at the correct position to really start threatening things. And now at level 6, this is kill pressure.
It certainly is, right? Taking a lot of damage. Perfect execution comes through. Big damage coming out of the Akali, who's now 2-0. Solo kill onto Rat, who flashed and still did not live.
Love the last minute of play coming out from Khan. I was just talking about how they just used the length of the lane to get multiple passive stacks and keep churning out the damage. Gets the XP advantage after forcing this Echo off the lane, then manages to use that to get themselves that solo kill with their ult.
Is going to get slowed down, but of course no ultimate available yet for Sammy Youngles, who meanwhile is missing out on a dragon. That one being secured by Trilip, who's getting the better of these exchanges between the junglers, despite having fallen 10 CS behind. Harry does try to look for a steal, but that is not happening with Make It Rain.
No, well, not far too low DPS on that ability, especially when you're going for unless you're going towards the very old season, the old season 6 AP Misfortune with the Emax from the support role. Really not going to have much of a steal though.
Yeah, we're not looking to take down Zyra plants this time round, so I don't think that that's going to be happening anytime soon. You talked about the lethality that was to come from the Misfortune, just a couple of long swords in the inventory at the moment, but we will look towards whether or not that Misfortune is going to make a believer of me yet or not. I think you're more convinced than I am. What I am convinced of is just how incredibly Bot Khan is playing on this Akali, looking so insanely strong. Knockup is going to connect here in the top lane onto Ernst, finds the shield, and Beach winning out on this trade and actually going just up in CS as well.
See, the really awkward thing about that trade is that was the physical shield, which of course doesn't defend against the brittle magic damage coming out of Horn, so still takes a whole chunk of damage on that shield. Means very little in the grand scheme of that trade. I really am impressed outside of Ernst by Trilip as well, as you were saying, getting the better of those trades in this jungle matchup. And as you were saying about your own struggles and where you should be going as a jungler, it seems like Trilip has really been discovering that. Whereas on the other side, Sammy Youngles struggling to make an impact on this map.
It is true. Meanwhile, just a moment or so ago, showing just how much extra dominance there was in the bot lane. Fallen Rain having hit level 6 before Zamimi even hit level 5 down there. Meanwhile, Bot Khan continuing this reign of dominance, and there is absolutely nothing Rat can do to deal with it right now.
You know, we were talking about this match right from the beginning, saying it's a melee matchup, both fulfilling a similar role as AP Assassin. Because you're melee in mid lane, you have to pay attention to your wave positioning so much. Talon players know this, Zed players know this, LeBlanc players as well. When you don't necessarily have the plethora of wave clear, or at least a wave clear advantage, and you can't just shove it with impunity, you have to know where your lane is going to end up, so you know you can take safe trades in regards to where the junglers may or may not be on the map. Because if you don't have information on the jungler and you're diving the enemy turret, then of course there's a chance they can turn up. What we've been seeing Khan doing, holding his lane on the same side, and now he's going to bot to try and kill.
Mid and top looking for the kills. Hextech ultimatum onto the Mimi. Bot Khan finds his third of the game. And also, no assist even comes in for Fallen Rain because the Dawning Shadow arrived just a little too late to get in on that action.
Absolutely love what Khan is doing across the map. Winning his lane, we already talked about that lane positioning, and then using that to pull a fast one. Get on a roam, which he hadn't done in this game yet. Maybe they just lulled the enemy team into a false sense of security, and the Portsmouth Paladins really had no good response to that, and they lose that kill on the bot side.
I really love the way so far that Fearless are playing this game, taking the bull by the horns in two senses, not only ripping through the health bars of the Alistair multiple times, but also accelerating the gameplay, looking for kill after kill after kill, taking both neutral objectives, finding themselves some turret plating off this first Herald for sure.
Yeah, I really also like how, again, going back to that mid lane matchup, you can see how Khan is just contesting every Q Rat is throwing out on this Echo, because you want to be shoving a roam. You want to be not playing into this matchup if you can, if you're this far behind. 3 kills on the Akali makes this a very uneven matchup. Khan is just saying, every time you walk up for a Q, I have my move speed, I have from my W, I'm going to keep using my fleet footwork for that too, and I'm just going to have more damage than you can deal with, going to keep chunking you out. Look at this. Let's see what happens next time he tries to... Look, every time Rat wants to walk up to the wave, Khan is threatening Qs, starting passive. So well played.
completely denying so much CS. Already 20 CS starved off is Rat, who's had those 2 deaths. He sees Zakali at 3-0. We're going to see a completed Mythic very, very soon for that mid laner. Botkan having a fabulous game so far.
Well, will this lead to a advantage in the jungle? Sejuani does get out. Parallel Convergence was thrown down. I was a little bit worried at that point because that's the kind of fight which can start eking away this pressure which the lanes of Fearless have built up.
Second dragon of the game spawning fairly shortly, in less than a minute's time, and already we see the pressure Sejuani is putting down on the bottom half of the map. Meanwhile, Ernk's looking to get the damage onto Beach, but on pretty tanky at this stage. Sam Youngles is going to find out Tri-Life. However, we'll see if there's any engage still to come. That's going to be the sleep straight on to Tri-Life, but look at the taunt, look at the damage. Botkan is absolutely dominating here on the Rift. The heroic entrance will arrive, the knock-up onto Zanimi. It's going to be Harry doing everything he can, picking up the 1 kill, getting the shutdown, looking for more. Look at these kills. Look at Rod, who's arrived at just the right moment. He looks for more. Fallen Rain so low. He's going to die to the Time Winder. Tri-Life is doing what he can. Stripes arrived just at the right moment. Beach, who teleported down, unable to take out the last bit of help from the Sejuani. Stripes and Tri-Life will get out to safety. They are 2 of the only survivors of a colossal war in the bot lane.
So many micro interactions not quite working out for one team, and one important one is that Akali, who has been so strong, did not manage to drop tower aggro. Tries to back out, doesn't judge it right, goes in for the second part of the ult, is still taking tower shots, eats part of that Misfortune ultimate too, and Harry picks up a lot of damage, gets the Eclipse off of that kill and assist too in that bot side, and what should have been, from the looks of it, a very clean dive, turns into a messy affair and gets some gold into the pockets of the Paladins.
Messy is one way to describe it. I'll tell you what, Ronaldo would not be another. That wouldn't make sense. Second dragon has now spawned this time round. It is, I believe, going to be the Infernal, so we're not going to be seeing an Infernal Rift, as this is just the second dragon. It's going to be Ocean or Cloud for this game.
I'm now very, very sad we don't have the goalkeeper, the sweeper Alistair skin, I believe it's called. So, Fallen Rain doesn't see this big route. Oh, he doesn't have flash. This could be a kill.
He goes into the shrouds and Mimi breaks straight in there with the flash, but isn't able to get anything out of this one. Despite the 4-man dive to bot, it's going to be Fallen Rain surviving. Protobelt now secured for Akali, who goes aggressive once more onto Rot. He does have the ultimate available. He's playing with fire, though.
He absolutely is. I really like what Khan did there again. He protobelts out of the parallel convergence, but when you protobelt, you actually get movement speed towards enemy champions, which is really good for Akali, because it means you get in range to start using your passive more. We see the Herald put down a bot lane, plates shared between those 2 bot laners. Sammy Youngle's going down to try and protect something, but doesn't have, well, didn't land the Swell Siege, so there's no chance to ult and turn that into any sort of play.
So 3 turret plates secured on the bottom half of the map, 3 turret plates already secured on the top side as well by the Camille. Second dragon now being started up by the Sejuani. We've got ourselves a 3,000 gold lead at 13 minutes going over to Fearless. The Portsmouth Paladins very much in trouble in game 1.
Absolutely are, and of course the leads are on very problematic members of this team. It's not like it's leads just on this bot lane, it's onto the high agency carries and the jungler too who's going in.
Sammy Youngles wanted to make something happen, instead eats a Sejuani ultimate to the face. Botkan finds the kill, and it is going to be the Lilia that dies. The Mimi going lower and deader. Akali gets another with the ultimate. Double kill comes through. We're going to see Sejuani take out Echo. Botkan chasing down Harry. Is he going to be able to complete this one? Hasn't got the somersault available just yet, and it is just going to be another 3 kills and a dragon.
From bad to worse, multiple kills going the way of Fearless, and we were talking about in Champs League, well, if the Paladins set up for an objective fight, they have ways to force things into very awkward situations. On ults, Lilia sleeps. If they can slow down the initial part of the fight and choose the fight on their turn, it works into their hands very well. That's not what happens here. It's a very quick objective start from Fearless. They finish it off, and the continued fight after the engage from the Sejuani goes really, really well for Leicester.
I just want to make a small prediction. It doesn't feel like that bold a prediction given the way the game has played out so far. But with
Tell me it anyway.
With the second Herald coming up in under a minute's time, in fact, around about 20 seconds time, I would not be surprised at all to see yet again great priority, maybe even rotations coming out of Fearless to try and get this, because they are trying to accelerate this lead as much as they can pre-20 minutes. They don't want a world where the Alistair's too tanky to kill. They don't want a world where Ornn starts getting upgrades and Lilia starts doing tons and tons of damage. They're going to keep trying to take these objectives. At the moment, I love the way they're playing this game.
I mean, you said it was a prediction, but it seems to be truth. The Senna's going up towards the top lane. Alongside that Galio, we have ourselves a lane swap, while Looks like the Paladins didn't catch the memo, and Misfortune still in that bot lane.
That is very, very true. Harry has got the Eclipse completing. I did find that kill on the, I'm not going to even call it a failed dive, but the messy dive that we had on bot side, as you described it. That's going to be called Forge God straight onto Fallen Rain. Takes a little bit of damage. Ruchi is going to connect onto the All. Galio comes in, finds the knockup with the Heroic Embrace, finds the knockup with the Justice Punch, finds the taunt as well. It's Fallen Rain fighting back against the Oppressor as Beach is going to drop. Stripes takes the kill away at the last moment. 0, 1, and 9. It's support center, folks.
Good, good. Give the gold to the Galio. You said that he was wasted in mid lane, and Stripes seems to agree with you. 3-0 and 6. This Galio off to the races, now helping be the secondary jungler taking down that Herald, and it seems there was a failed all-in that mid laners Khan tried to abuse the lack of ultimate on the side of Rot, but didn't manage to get that kill.
Rot's going to have flash up in a moment, already has the Chrono Break back, but there it is, that's the Herald I predicted a moment or so ago. Of course, won't be any more turret plates to secure, but we will see the turrets being put under pressure as both top and bottom are so low, having lost turret plates. Zamini, meanwhile, caught out by Ernst, who's happy to duel this one out. Unbreakable Will is thrown down, Summer Young Rules coming in, Fallen Rain throws down the ultimate to give a little bit of shielding, Drowsy, bullet time, that's going to catch despite the sleep not being broken by the bullet time. Meanwhile, Sammy Youngle stays too long and is now 0-4 in this game. Trilight has shown to be the dominant jungler so far in this matchup.
That's done, and that's the combo we wanted to see. It's just not enough. Harry now looking to escape, but Trilip is right on top of them.
Harry is in the position where he can actually turn and get some damage down, however, just can't go anywhere near that Galio. We do see Ornn is here for help, but as the Justice Punch connects, the taunt is there, and Harry unable to put down the tons of damage I'm sure he'd want to be doing. Now in comes Akali, looking for the execute, throwing down damage after damage, not even having to use the Hextech Protobelt to win out on that fight. Does get knocked up, does get shut down by Echo. Meanwhile, Stripe trying to run safety, has to flash over the wall. Rat looks for the shutdown, finds it, gets 2 quick shutdowns, and that's just what the Echo ordered.
Absolutely, it's another fight which goes a little too long for the side of Fearless, and they try to get their tanky members in the Galio and Sedrani to try and do something behind the tower, but they had no damage to make it stick. So Beach, who's very tanky at this point in time, even though he's not, you know, particularly ahead in the individual matchup, managed to stick around long enough and bait in Khan to try and clean up the mess of the other members of Fearless, and they trade their life, and as you're saying, 2 shutdowns now onto this all-important member of this Echo.
And now, all of a sudden, maybe the Echo is just a little bit more relevant. Still don't think he can be really properly dueling against the Akali, but if he can find assassinations onto people like Fallen Rain, maybe he might just give an opportunity over to the Paladins to come back into this game. That being said, they're nearly 6,000 gold down still.
So, if we're talking about, once again, this Echo and Akali matchup, can you tell him a mid laner, by the way? Actually, we're not going to talk about that. That's Fate saying, nope, you've had enough. Let's talk about this dive on bot lane.
Yeah, Beach gets his flash out, however, immediately gets flashed upon and is going to be in all sorts of trouble. A lot of health, but not enough to stop the Akali shredding through. We are seeing the third Dragon game spawning in less than a minute's time. It is not a world in which I see any kind of contest coming out of Portsmouth for this one.
No, I don't think so. At least there's a teleport on the Ornn to get towards maybe a contest around that dragon, but after using that ult in the bot lane play, wouldn't have nearly the same impact. Khan going for the Protobelt, Khan not even having to go for the Riftmaker, still has enough damage being this fed to take down the tank of that Ornn. And now they just have free reign on this side lane, and whereas, remember, we were talking about the Paladins and Riot in particular having a very good set of games on his Echo in that side lane specifically in their win against Oxford. They need this guy to really start being a point of pressure now.
They really, really do.
Close.
Swelsey not quite going to connect this time around. That Dragon's just about to get started up. It will be dead very, very shortly. The second Herald was thrown down towards the mid lane. Didn't actually take the turret. Come back to that. Trilife is zoning off Sammy Youngles, but Rat wants the fight. Looks for Fallen Rain. Uses the Hextech Protobelt, but unable to find the kills. Stripes arrives with the heroic entrance teleport coming through. This is going to be both the top laners joining the fray. Zamini goes in, throws down the Unbreakable Will. Trilife zoning off, but now as Zamini tries to cause chaos, Rat jumps straight back, looks for Ernst, but jumps into a 4-man death squad.
Oh, misses the cue as Khan, but he's still trying to cycle onto Harry. Gets out alive, but the center ult!
Oh, Harry was going Kaiser, so staying alive by inches, but those inches were removed from him. Beach is going to be removed from the rift. Another dragon goes down, and Sejuani picks this one up for the Portsmouth Paladins. We're now looking at an 8,000 gold lead. The Baron spawns in 20 seconds. And I'll tell you what, you'd be a fool to put money against Fearless taking it sometime soon.
I agree, and we normally talk about games and the amount of kills they have in them as how close they are to a kill a minute. We mean that combined. This time it is over a kill a minute just from this one team of Fearless. They have popped off, they have snowballed through their lanes, and a lot of it has come through the bold and daring play in the early game shown by Unks on the top side of the map, and Shrilep enabling the bot side too. That again left Khan to really snowball his own laning advantage, and I really can't see too many ways Paladins can get into this game now, because whereas we were saying they maybe can win a lot of fights around objectives, I think this gold lead is far too much, and they just don't have the vision to really contest.
It really is so much at this point. Unsurprisingly, 3 highest CS numbers in the game, all on the Fearless team. A 10, 2, and 5 Akali on the Fearless team. A 5, 1, and 8 Sejuani that has dominated the jungle matchup on the Fearless team. At this point, we have to stop calling them Fearless and start calling them Fear More.
Well, it looks like Paladins will be looking to buy themselves a nautical craft of some renown, because they are going to need to dread nothing going into the next game if they want to turn around this game, well, this series rather, because this one is looking very, very difficult to overcome.
It definitely is, but we know anything can happen on the Rift. Just last week, we had an absolute thriller between Oxford Brooks and this very Portsmouth team. It went an absolute age. It resulted in one of the best games I've ever seen. I won't give any spoilers towards that game 3 because honestly, go back and watch one of our most recent VODs to see it. It was absolutely tremendous. Meanwhile, however, right, I'm sure the Portsmouth Pirates are going to be hoping this game will go anywhere near as long as that one, because it'll mean they have half a chance of battling back. But right now, they are 4 turrets to 1 down. They're 3 dragons down, facing a soul point pre-25 minutes.
Well, maybe they will have to channel their inner Portsmouth Pirates, because they'll need to steal this game if it were to end up in a victory. Maybe that comes around some awkward Baron setup. I mean, we were talking about the objective setup and how it might be awkward for Paladins to win a fight. Doesn't mean that they can't throw some kind of weirdness into the mix if Fearless aren't very good about their setup around this Baron. You can't be lax around this, because that's how you throw games, but Shrilep's going in.
He's going straight into the middle of 3. He's got Unks for company. The rest of the team's going to fall around. Look how quickly Sammy Youngle's health bar gets absolutely eviscerated, as does Rats, and suddenly with 2 dead, this could not just be Baron, but possibly even the end of the game at this rate. A 4-0 wipe in the blue side jungle of Portsmouth Paladins. They go down almost without a whimper, and the Baron will go to Fearless.
Sent packing a 4-for-none, real no contest available in their fight. You can see what this gold lead means, what these stats mean. It means that even though that Sejuani went in 1v4, it did not matter. Escapes with almost the entirety of their HP bar intact, and they buy enough time for the carries to just shred their opposing numbers.
At this point, it just feels like he hasn't got anything left to lose. He's like, I'm going to continue to trade with Bot Khan, and he is not winning out on this one. At the beginning, it looked like he did, but he just pure and simple did not have the damage. Bot Khan keeps his 10, 2, and 5 scoreline. Not even a part of those kills in the blue side jungle, but he gets a Baron buff nonetheless.
The really funny thing there is he was going to go for the Shuriken flip, return onto the Ornn, but then the pop-up of the Ornn Q just interrupted that dash. So maybe somehow saving their life does Beach gets away with that in the bot lane.
Yeah, just about working out for the Ornn, who is getting to a point where upgrades are starting to come through. The question is it too little, too late? The answer is probably yes.
It's 12,000 gold lead. That is one of the larger gold leads you'll see in the current meta game of League of Legends. You can go back to season 4, 5, and gold leads did tend to be larger in those days, given how dragons used to give gold and stuff like that, and you could start snowballing very, very quickly, and also wave clear for a lot longer, so a lot of the time when the team was winning, the games did just go longer. In the current meta game, you don't expect this kind of gold lead unless you have a Pyke on their team. Do you see Pyke? No, I do not. This is just an absolute snowball textbook game from Fearless.
I mean, this isn't a snowball at this point. This is just throwing the entire blizzard at somebody. Meanwhile, Shrilep is going to get knocked up, thrown back into turret range, trying to dive away, trying to get to safety. We'll be waiting for the Q to come back off cooldown, trying to escape via the bot turret, but being chased down. Bullet time comes in for good measure. The shutdown is there, but meanwhile, inhibitor after inhibitor is being taken. We're going to see top lane the first to fall, and yet again, the push comes in, even though they have to lose the Sejuani this time.
Okay, Lilia ult coming down. This onto the Camille.
And that is going to be the call forward. God, Hextech Ultimatum used to try and get as much damage as possible. Ernx able to hook shot out to safety. Teleport now coming through. This is going to be Botcan going right into the middle. Throws down the Shroud. Has the heroic entrance on top. Knockup going to land onto 2. Ra ulting to stay alive. That is going to be Knockup on Botcan. Slight mistakes coming in now from Fearless. Supportless Paladins find themselves 2 quick shutdowns. But Botcan still somehow finds a kill onto Harry, even in what was basically a 1v4.
Turns out life's a beach, and Ornn has enough HP to make it out, even though the Ignite goes down. They do have, now, the Fearless team, an ability to go towards the Ocean Soul Dragon. They are sat on 3. That would almost certainly end this game, given how long these fights have been going and how much regen value they would get, and they're looking to set up a Death Rush.
Youngles doesn't want to give over this 4th dragon, but he might not have a say in the matter. It's going to be Rat and Ernx jumping over towards said Ocean Dragon. It's going to be Zamimi left super low. Sammy Youngles goes in but immediately flashes out, but Rat finds the kill onto Ernx. Yet another shutdown. Beach goes where he should not have done, and Trilight finds the kill as a result. Galio able to look for some zoning. This dragon just outside the bush. It is in vision as Fallen Rain, and Trilight looks to steal one away. Fallen Rain finds the kill onto Zamimi. Rat dies next. There goes the whole squad. There goes the soul. Actually, no, the soul was denied. Sammy Youngles plays hero, but at what cost?
It'll be the cost of the game. Misfortune is alive, but we've seen how hard it's been for Harry to keep himself safe during these big diving team fights. When you've got this Senna who is so strong on the other side of Fearless, this tower will absolutely evaporate. It probably is just a game.
It is looking very, very likely. 26 minutes in, the second inhibitor turret falls. The second inhibitor looks like it will be just after it. Fortunately, Harry is there to clear out all the super minions that are coming in from the top side.
Hey, all right.
I think the game doesn't end right now. And because that Ocean Dragon was denied, at least Soul hasn't gone over to the team that have themselves a 13,000 gold lead on the nose.
Yeah, so, okay, right, just prove me wrong there. Why don't you feel like don't choose to end the game? Guess they, well, they did the damage calculations slightly more better than we did, or at least I did on the cast. They don't have themselves the soul, have themselves the extra inhib, like you were saying. They can recall 2 minutes on the Baron, 4 minutes on the Dragon. Not too much to be fought around in the next few minutes. Looking to see now where the next play will come in.
Let's remind ourselves what is at stake here as well. This game going on in conjunction with another game on the losers half of the bracket here in the varsity qualification for spring. These teams missed out on the prize pool this time round. However, the prize pool most people are interested in is what happens coming out of varsity. And you've got to qualify to varsity. You've got to be in it to win it, and Ernx right now is in it to try and take down Beach. He's actually going to hook shot away from the Ornn, playing things a little safer, waiting for the team and the super minions to push in.
Don't think you really want to overcommit to one of those fights when you don't, well, particularly onto someone like the Ornn who can buy so much time. Of course, the Sejuani can too, trying to just really CC this Ornn down.
Here come Fearless, chasing down Beach, who gets absolutely eviscerated, unable to throw the return of the call of the Forge. Oh god, the super minions are now pushing in mid and top. There are no minions just yet, so this bot lane inhibitor staying alive. Akali threatening on the backline, looking for a potential execute. Has 11 kills already and wants yet more.
Once more, has a very high immediate burst build as opposed to a Riftmaker continued DPS. Has a Lichbane, has a Protovel. That's more like the Echo build, which of course we can see those items mirrored on that matchup too. What that means is that Harry has even more to be afraid of, because this Akali is going to present so much of that damage in the first couple of seconds of combat.
The minions have arrived. Beach is still dead for 7 seconds. Nexus turret number 1 looking about to fall to the supers. Flash already forced there. Zamimi, meanwhile, looking for potential engage, comes in, finds the Unbreakable Will. That's the bullet time, getting good damage down. Trilight still living, however. Sammy Youngles not so lucky. Ernx finds that kill. Botcan putting down damage from the backside. It's going to be Beach going forward, trying to zone off as many as possible. But what can one lonely goat do against 5 goats in this game? They have played this brilliantly. It was messy earlier, but they've been the GOAT at the end. The game goes over to Fearless. They are 1 game away from qualifying for varsity.
They scrap, they brawl, they emerge victorious. Fearless lead the series 1-0.
That is exactly what they will have wanted. Obviously, put themselves in with 2 opportunities now of winning 1 game to find themselves in varsity. Absolutely fantastic game, that one. And honestly, let's just talk for a moment about Botcan. What was that? That was just wow.
Wonderful play, wonderful play. I know that I dove into the matchup a number of times when it turned up on screen, but there are so many micro things which Khan was doing which just won their game. I won that game and it made it look easy because stuff like the wave control and understanding how the matchup worked between the Echo and the Kali and how you could contest each wave clearing queue coming out of that Echo, using that to pile into pressure to make a run bot lane to get random kills and then use that advantage to know how you can start diving in team fights was really, really well played. And honestly, if you give this guy another winning matchup, I'm very afraid for the Paladins.
A good point. I don't know if you've had a look at the fantastic graphic that's just been sent us
I
by our
have, yeah.
wonderful producer, Patrick Pants Campbell. Remember, check him out at Prod Patrick. But actually, most damage in the game comes out from the Senna in the end, who had that slightly more I won't even go as far as calling it a standard bot lane matchup, going for the Senna with the Galio alongside it that maybe is a little more unorthodox, but it just worked absolute wonders, put down tons of damage to go alongside all the execution that was coming through from the Akali. A fantastic win for Fearless.
There was so much gold on the side of Fearless that you look at the amount of people you want to remove immediately from the side of Paladins, and also who it's feasible for you to attack. If you've got the Sejuani up in your face, as Trilip was for the majority of that game, and then you've got the Camille and the Akali and then the Galio diving in, Senna is very far down on your list of priorities and also very far down on the list of available targets, because you can't just ignore these melee diving champions who are on your face. You can't do that. And what that means is that Senna with the increased range, having the Divine Sunder build too, which is really good for taking down tanky front lines like the Ornn and cutting through people like the Lilia too, who have to stand around in combat for a number of seconds. It just means that damage does end up racking up. And then we saw how much damage came out of that ultimate a number of times, finishing off a number of kills. You can understand where the damage comes from. Really well played from that Senna.
I hate to do it to Sammy Youngles, but I don't think that the Lilia stood around in combat for a few seconds pretty much ever in that tower game. Just getting eviscerated time and time again, made into a non-factor. That was bad news for Portsmouth, of course. However, I've got good news, and I've got better news, Alex. The good news for Portsmouth is that this was just the first game in a best of 3. They have the chance to reverse sweep, to come back to still qualify for varsity. Even more good news, we will be back to bring you one more or 2 more games, depending on how the next game goes in this series after a short break. Better news, during that break, have a chance to check out our fantastic sponsors, because we are brought to you by Levi's 24/7. Levi 24/7 members, they get access to new products, promotions, and events. Join today and start enjoying all your 24/7 benefits and earn points with every purchase. Link is in the panel below. Check it out during the break.
All the baseline soldiers.
Swag.